everyone, it's me, Flare Pros, and in this video, I wanted to talk about art block. Art block is this thing when you're starting out, it feels like this wall that just hits you and you have to climb over, it's a whole mountain you have to climb over, and it can just be this super demotivating thing. Maybe when you see the artists you admire, you think, oh, they just don't get art block. I think they do. The only difference is over the years, they know how to deal with it, they know what causes it, and they learn how to deal with it quicker so that it isn't this month-long thing that just cripples you, right? And over time, I have found out what causes art block for me. At the time I was writing this in my notebook, I was actually going through art block. I'm pretty much over it now, which is cool. But I want to talk about 3 things that I've whittled it down to, which causes art block for me. Over time, you'll have to figure out what causes yours. That just takes time. But hopefully this can help you figure out what causes it for you. So, 3 reasons I get art block. Having scattered focus or too much focus on one thing for too long, too much screen time, and having little sleep or just not in the mood. Sometimes you're drawing and you just don't feel like it, and so nothing really comes out, and that's fine. That's just kind of like one of those days, you know? Now I'm going to be talking about what I do to deal with it. First thing, top of my head, I'm going to mention automatic drawing. Automatic drawing is essentially when you shut off your brain and you just let your pen glide all over the page, kind of doodle lines, and maybe you start to see something in it and then you can go ahead and draw that if you see it. But you're not pressuring yourself to make anything in particular. You're just drawing lines. I'll link a video in the description where I think Glenn Vilpu, I think is his name, he does automatic drawing, and that can just be one of the various things. Cynic's Design also talks about it. That's what I'm doing right now, actually. Throughout this entire video, I'm just going to be doing automatic doodles, essentially. And what I'm doing is I'm just drawing with no clear focus. I'm just kind of turning my brain off and doodling whatever comes out of my hand, you know? The first thing I have to do is make sure that I split my attention properly so I get knowledge of art, but I don't start stagnating on the rest of it. This means I focus on one fundamental for a week or a small period of time to absorb that fundamental better, and then I switch to something else. Because if you split your attention between several fundamentals, you absorb a little bit out of each, but at the end of the day, it's a little bit of all. It's like a jack of all trades, right? Jack of all trades, but master of none. What you want to do is you will absorb the information better if you focus on one of those fundamentals for a short period of time. You get more knowledge about it, absorb that subconsciously, and then you move on to the next one. Take someone who studies just several fundamentals like gesture, light, and all of this stuff, and they just split their attention between all of these for a week. And then you have someone who, for 1 week, focuses on one thing. They're going to have way more knowledge about that one thing than the other person will, because the other person focused on everything, gets a little bit of knowledge in all of them. That person got a lot of knowledge on one thing, and then over the time, they'll just have more knowledge about it than the other person will. There is a great video about this that I found a long time ago that really helped me. I'll put it in the description. I can't remember the name of the moment. But it talks about how you break up your time and the fundamentals to absorb that information better. They talk about seeing your brain as a table and then putting those information as boxes. Really helpful. I'll link it in the description. You get to see it. It really helped me a lot when I was starting. But the other thing is if I focus on something for too long, for me personally, I think possibly this art block came around because I'm taking painting classes, and I ended up kind of just focusing on that more than my other art. So when it came time to think of something creative, all I could think about was applying it to painting, and that can just kind of slow down my brain, and I don't really know how to think, and I end up kind of getting art blocked. So with me, I try not to focus on one subject for too long, or if I am focusing on one subject, allow myself to have room to play, to draw what I want to draw, even if I'm learning another subject. That can be either automatic drawing, again, which I'm doing now, or it can just be I study that painting while I'm at class, and whenever I want to study or whenever I figure out something maybe new about it while I'm at home. But I also give myself time to draw or doodle anything else I want to do. That helps break the focus from being entirely focused on painting, and then the rest of my art starts to kind of suffer if I focus on one thing for too long. If I start to drift in my focus, I might go and reevaluate the art principles and what I want to focus on, because sometimes I can just lose focus of what it is I want to study, and that just makes me feel like I'm floating around in this white void and I just have no real focus. So I'm just like, what do I do? And nothing creative comes to mind, and I just end up getting art blocked. I also have to make sure I get enough sleep, especially if I notice it starts to affect me. When you sleep, your brain processes all that information that you've learned. So if you're just taking all that time studying and you don't really get much sleep, it's not going to end up sticking. Another thing is to take breaks in between your hours of drawing as well. If you focus on something for too long, your brain starts getting tired. It's also better for your body to not be sitting for hours at a time. Taking a step back allows your brain to back off, absorb the info, and then you just come back with a fresh review. Again, you know that saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Especially if you're taking a break, I would just recommend walking. I really can't recommend that enough. If I have too much screen time, I take a break and start walking around outside. That fresh air is so nice, and the walking just helps clear everything off my brain. I also do this if I'm just sort of overstimulated. That happens from time to time. There are days where I feel like I've been sitting for so long, I just have so much built up energy, and it feels like my brain is bouncing off the walls. Walking helps release some of that energy and just clear out my brain. Also, fresh air, just, so good. The biggest thing I've come to realize with this art block that I've getting over is I do have to start cutting out my time wasted on social media. This does not mean cutting social media out altogether. I will still use it, but it just means being more effective with my time. This is something artists, they'll discover at some point in their journey, pretty much at any point, right? I already spend about 2 hours a day average. At the time I wrote this, I said that I already only spend about 2 hours a day per week on Instagram. But when I first started on Instagram, that used to be 30 minutes. So it's gone up over time. And a lot of the time, what that was me just scrolling on Reels. It wasn't even really checking out other artists or learning anything. It was just scrolling. And that just builds up that energy in my brain, and I get ugh, I need to back off from it, right? And then I get art blocked, in a way. It's not really Instagram too much that's my problem. It's my YouTube screen time that I undoubtedly waste the most time on. I have a scattered focus usually anyway, and I end up just jumping between videos instead of drawing. Sometimes it's art videos, sometimes it's just funny entertainment, which is fine, but if I use that as an escape or to postpone from the work I actually need to do, then it's a problem. But, like I said, I can't just completely stop using it. When I'm working on my computer, I like something playing in the background or just having my headset on, because that kind of drowns out the noise a little bit, and most of the time when I'm working, I put on my headphones, so it kind of puts me in that zone of working. So when I'm working on my computer, I like something playing in the background, usually similar to what I'm already working on, so I like listening to art videos while I'm doing art. I'm specifically focused on maybe what I'm drawing at that time. So 3 things: having scattered focus or too much focus, I have too much screen time, how I break up that time to make sure I'm not overworking myself. You have to give your brain time to breathe. I hope that maybe sharing what gives me art block is something maybe a few of you guys can relate to, and it can help you start to figure out what causes art block for you. If you like this video, consider coming over to my YouTube channel and subscribing so you get an update on all the other ones. Alright, see you next time.